Hello everybody, welcome back to Clear Surf Financial Education. Carl Keister here. So today I thought I would start the video off talking a little bit about what the IRS did, and I'm not just talking about stimulus. We'll get into stimulus here further into the video, but I wanted to let you know up front that the IRS has extended another month basically. Instead of April 15th, the tax deadline this year is going to be May 17th. So you have until May 17th to get the money in if you owe the IRS. Now obviously if you're getting a refund, and you want to get that in as soon as possible because you're going to get money back, and also it'll help you get your stimulus check quicker too because they're taking the information off of prior year and this year. So if you file, you're going to get that check. Those checks are going out this week. I looked on Chase's website. They're already starting to hit bank accounts last week. And according to Chase on their website, they mentioned this Wednesday, which is actually March 24th, as the next batch that will be coming from the IRS that they're going to disperse. So you'll see more coming forward. I have talked to people that have filed their tax return months ago and did not receive those stimulus checks yet. So I think it's going to take some time because they're really looking into making sure that people get those refund and stimulus checks, deserve them. I know in our office we've seen a lot of people that were children, dependents on someone's return because maybe they were in school or didn't make a lot of money, or maybe an elderly parent who's living on Social Security who was dependent on someone else's tax return. And a lot of those people, we've been having them file their own tax return so that they're eligible for the stimulus check. So before they would have gotten nothing as a dependent on someone else's return, they file their own tax return. Even if it's only minimal income on the return, they'll be entitled to the $1,400 stimulus checks that are going out. So that's one thing I want to make you aware of. But this deadline though, if you owe money that you don't have, even if you file an extension, I think it's the 704, the extension, you get an extra 6 months. That gives you additional time to get your information together to file. You still have to send a check in for what you think you owe, and then the IRS will square up with you once your paperwork is submitted prior to that 6 month extension. So it's a big misconception. People think, well, if I file an extension, I get 6 more months to pay my bill. No, you don't. You basically get 6 months to get it together, but penalties and interest start right after the filing deadline, this year being May 17th. So let's get back in that. So I want to talk a little about the stimulus checks. As I mentioned, the IRS is sending those out, $1,400 checks. I believe it's $150 for married couples still and $75 single. If you make above that, it phases out rather quickly. I think it's $150 to $160 on married, filing joint, but it phases out quickly. So those folks who make more than that aren't going to see that, but most of the country, a lot of filers will see those checks and they'll start showing up. Which brings me to my next thought, and that is the stock market. We start seeing these things are going up. I mentioned in the last video, I'll leave a link to that. I talked about how there's non-fungible tokens, digital artwork. I've seen this week, I watched a video where they were showing Pokemon cards and sneakers, and everything that can be considered a collectible is going up in price. And this just kind of shows what I've been talking about, and that's all this money is sloshing around. Because if you are a retiree, if you're an individual who has an office job that can work from home, you haven't missed a beat, but you're getting these stimulus checks. Last year was $1,200 per individual, now $1,400. I mean, this is the third round of checks we've had sent out. So literally, people are flush with $5,000 to $10,000. Families I've seen that have gotten that didn't get these stimulus checks for whatever reason. We've had tax returns that they're getting their refund this year, their child credits, stimulus checks. I mean, I've seen refunds of $10,000 just because they've got a couple of children on there and they didn't get the stimulus and now they're entitled to it. So now's the time you want to file that return. Make sure you fill out, if you didn't get the refund, there's a form you fill out that says if you check the box, you did not receive one or whatever you received, put that in there because they will add that to your refund, but it's going to slow down the processing. So I think that's going to be one side effect we're going to see from this. But still, if you're entitled to it, do it and use direct deposit. Do not send your paper mail your return in and ask for a paper check. It's just going to slow things down. I've seen people that got checks months later. So do the direct deposit. The system is very secure. If you don't get your refund for any reason, between the banks and the IRS, you'll get it eventually. They'll figure it out, even if something happens in the process, but do that to get your money quickly. Now, getting back to the market, interesting enough, we had that pullback when interest rates, when the 10-year started ticking up. Beginning of the year, it was around 1%. Now we went as high this week, went to 175. But this week when it hit 175, the market didn't just roll over. The NASDAQ, only a week or two ago, it was down about 10%. I think it was the week prior that it went down. This past week, it just rallied back up for the most part. Still some stocks I'm looking at have not hit all-time high. If you look at the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, they have not rallied back. Microsoft's really close. That's probably the best and probably my best idea as far as like going forward. If this coming week, if the market starts getting its mojo again, because I think with all these stimulus checks going out, more people are going to be interested in putting money into the market. And I have read some things that suggested that upwards of 40%, 50%, somewhere in that ballpark of people getting those checks that really don't need them are going to invest the money. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see an uptick this week in the market, or at least in Bitcoin, because that seems to be another place that people go when they have extra money. And Bitcoin, again, a week or so ago, pulled back from all-time highs of like 58,000. I saw a four handle, low 49,000, 48,000, and guess what? Boom, last right back to 61, all-time high. So it seems like any extra money is going into Bitcoin, alternative investments, and eventually it's trickling in the stock market as well, because people don't want to sit in cash. So if you're one of those folks that's fortunate enough that you're either using this money to pay down debt or you want to invest it. And that's one thing to consider, because as people pay down debt, that just means that they're going to have more money in the future to invest in the market, buy things. Home prices keep going up. I read and also watched a few videos. It was pretty interesting on this real estate market as well. I know here in South Florida, the market's very hot. I mean, places are going up for sale within weeks. It's not taking months. It's literally taking weeks, anywhere from 10 to 21 days, and houses are sold and they're going for top dollar. And I think I have a little explanation that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, and I'm seeing this from the tax returns that I'm reviewing in the office. And that is, some people in the last year or two, in particular, when they moved into another place, even some people that moved into an apartment, have kept their home, have kept their condo and rented it out in hopes that this appreciation keeps happening. And I'm also seeing that. I'm seeing that people are holding on to a home for 2 or 3 years after they move out, whether they buy another house or move to another state, and just turn it into a rental rather than put it on the market. So the inventory on real estate just keeps shrinking, which is keeping prices up. Of course, interest rates were at all-time lows going into this year. So even the first quarter of this year, rates are super low. And even now, we talk about the 10-year back to 1.75. Mortgage rates are between 3 and 3.5. I mean, that is nothing. That's still like basically free money, if you ask me. Inflation has been since the Depression, the inflation's around 2%. So you're paying less than, you're paying 1.5% above inflation to buy a home with the kind of appreciation we've seen, since the financial crisis. So now that was 2008. So we're talking like 13 years of price appreciation on these homes, stock appreciation, alternative investments, oil, commodities. Interesting enough, it's not just what I just mentioned. I want to bring up commodities. I saw commodities and read an article why housing values are probably going to stay up here or keep going up. And one of those reasons is they said lumber, of all things, lumber, copper, all the things you need to build a home have gone up dramatically. The article that I read mentioned that the average home, the lumber to build the average home right now is $25,000 more than just a year or two ago. So if you think about that, if you want to buy a replacement home, you're going to go out and build a home today, the home's going to cost $25,000 more, which means existing home values are going to go up, because you either buy a new build, which there aren't enough out there. The home builders have not built enough because they weren't sure what was going to happen here with the election. Like, go back 4 years, they weren't sure what was going to happen in the election. They thought it was going to roll over. And instead, the housing market did even better. Stock market did better. So everything's being held up right now. All this money the Fed has printed, they keep printing the money. So far, they're saying inflation's in check, but I also see it in our grocery bill, and I have read too that food prices right now are the highest they've been since 2014. So we're at 7-year highs in groceries, commodities, everything's just getting bid up. So with that being said, I just want to let you know that it'll be interesting to see. Keep an eye on the market this week. It did seem a little soft. We had a lot of days that it didn't do a whole lot. So it could be we ripped after the NASDAQ was down 10%. It's not unusual for it to rally back, but I will also say it's not unusual that it rallies back for a week and rolls back over. But I think with the stimulus checks going out, I'm gonna take a quick look here. With the stimulus checks going out this week and people receiving them last week and this week, well, I'll be curious to see. We'll talk about this in a week or two. I'll check back and see how it held up, because I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin and stocks higher just because all this money that's out there. So keep an eye on it. NASDAQ still doesn't look, it is not back to the highs. So yeah, it's definitely not there. So until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.